Hello and welcome back to Crafted by Corie. If you're new, I'm Corie. Welcome to my channel. If you're returning, thank you as always for being here. I have some brand new Christmas DIYs. Super excited, so let's go ahead and get right on into the crafting. DIY number one. All right, I have my Kirkland ribbon that you always hear me talking about from Costco because I love it so much and I do a lot of crafting with it. And then I also have a Dollar Tree ornament there that is something you can fill with things, but we're actually going to just be working with the outside of it. I am checking to make sure that my three little gnomes there will fit across the front, and then I'm going to trim up the ribbon to just pull the parts of the image from the ribbon that I want. I am cutting out the wire from the ribbon because when I apply this, I want to make sure that it is going to be nice and smooth, or as smooth as possible, on the surface of the ornament. So I'm just going to cut right around there and make sure I have my little gnome fellas intact. It is a woven ribbon, so you saw me pulling apart that one little piece that was kind of sticking out. But I just want to be careful not to pull too much of that away because otherwise it's going to unravel my ribbon. But I have my Mod Podge here. That is a satin Mod Podge that I'm using. Ultimately, you're going to find that it doesn't really matter because the Mod Podge was a bit of a fail. So if I had waited maybe for it to become a little drier and tacky, perhaps it would have held down my ribbon, but this ribbon is a little bit stiffer and it did not want to adhere with the Mod Podge. I made every attempt, as you're gonna see. I'm trying to go over the surface. I do like to share my mistakes, so to speak, with you guys so you can see what not to do, what didn't work. So hopefully you can learn from my mistakes and save yourselves a lot of time. Here you can see I am grabbing some parchment paper thinking that I could use that to kind of mold it around the ornament. And while that did kind of work, and maybe I could have let it dry and then tried to use water to wash the paper away. I don't know. It ultimately was sticking more to the paper than it was to the ornament. So when I went to try to pull that away, yeah, it was just not working. Then I thought, okay, well, maybe I can mold it with my hands. At this point, I'm getting Mod Podge all over my hands. But yeah, eventually I was like, this is not going to work. So I peeled that off, tossed that little piece of ribbon in the trash, grabbed my baby wipes, and I got this ornament cleaned up. I just scrubbed all of the Mod Podge off of it, and I'm going to start again. This time I'm going to use a little bit of hot glue on the low setting. So you want to make sure you're not burning yourself, but also that you're not going to melt that ornament, right? So I used the low setting, put just a small bead of glue around the outer edge. I didn't want it in the middle of the ribbon because I didn't want it to be visible at all. And we'll be covering up the edges a little bit later. So hopefully that'll save you a whole lot of time right there. Do not recommend using the Mod Podge. Recommend the hot glue. So I got my other little set of ribbons cut out and applied that the same way on the other side. And now I'm going to be using some ribbon from my stash, a smaller ribbon, here we go, to finish off the edges of the design, so to speak. So I trimmed that off kind of at an angle so that I could make sure that when I come back around from one side to the other, I'll be able to kind of sweep past that angled edge. Hopefully you'll see what I'm talking about in a few minutes, but I'm going to use some hot glue. Just be careful here because the ribbon, and there is my clock, of course. So forgive the additional music in the background. Yeah, I always seem to manage to do my voiceovers when the clock is going off. But just using a little bit of hot glue through here, as I was saying, this ribbon does have holes in it, so you just want to make sure you're not burning yourself. I probably should be using my finger protectors, but I do have it on the hot setting, and at this point I am pretty immune to that. Well, I shouldn't say immune to the hot glue. I still get myself burned, but I'm careful. Let's just say it that way. So once I got it all the way wrapped around, the 2 images, you know what I mean. I went ahead and trimmed that off at an angle and tucked it in so that it was lined up as closely as possible to the other part of the ribbon to hide the seam. So I'm going to take that little tag off, and now I've got my hairspray. This is a liquid, not an aerosol. It's like a pump hairspray, and I'm going to pour just, you know, a little bit in there to coat the entire inside of it. And once I am feeling confident that I've got the inside done, I'm going to pour the excess back into the hairspray container. And then I'm going to be grabbing my glitter to put all into the inside of the ornament. We're going to make it look like snow on the inside of the ornament. So I'm just putting a good amount in there so that I can get everything coated. Just going to shake it around and do the same kind of thing that I just did with the hairspray, and knock out the excess onto my piece of parchment paper that I will then be able to put back into the container for future use. So I did have a spot that looks like I didn't hit with the hairspray, so I want to be more careful the next time. So just be mindful that you're making sure that you've got everything coated, and I'm sure that it will work out perfectly for you. So I'm going to go ahead and put my little hook back on the top. I was thinking I probably could have changed out the hanger with that same red ribbon, which I believe I either got from Dollar Tree. They definitely have it, or it might have been from Hobby Lobby because it was like more ribbon than normal. DIY number 2. Okay, so I have a styrofoam ball and then a whole bunch of little picks and greenery. I have my green twine right there that I'm going to use to create a hanger. This is inspired by something that my husband saw outside the grocery store the other day, and he had taken a picture of it, and I thought it was super cute and figured I might be able to recreate something similar. So I've got a loop here that's going to be used for my hanger. I'm thinking it was probably about 20 inches that I folded in half and tied in a knot, so a 10-inch hanger. I'm just using an old pick that I had saved. It's just wire that I poked a hole in there to be able to tuck my hanger down in. So I'm going to tuck the knot side in and just press that down. As you saw, I put some hot glue in there to grab it, and I'm going to add some more hot glue around the outside here and just make sure that that is nice and secure, so that it doesn't end up pulling out and us not having a way to hang this later. So I am now using my fern chalk paint. It doesn't have to be fern. I would just recommend some sort of a green color that is going to help to camouflage the white ball. It'll just be less obvious if you end up with some areas where you might be able to see through your greenery. You won't notice that there's a white ball inside of there. It'll just camouflage it. Once I had that completely dry, I was ready to start in with my picks. Now, I had used my hot gun on the ball to get it dried more quickly. Otherwise, I could have been pulling these picks apart if I just hung it to dry. Just if you use the heat gun, I just recommend that you do it a little bit from a distance, because the styrofoam will melt if you get it too hot. Hopefully I'm making cohesive sense, so coherent. Goodness, stumbling with my words today. But I'm also just trimming down the picks, as you could see, to make sure that the parts that I'm going to stick into the ball are not too long, because I want to make sure that I have enough room inside that ball to stick all of my picks in all over the ball, and I don't want the ends to be interfering with each other. Hopefully I'm making sense. And plus, I feel like if you stick too many long ones through there, it's going to damage the styrofoam sufficiently that it might start falling apart. So I found that about a 1/2 inch was more than sufficient to hold the picks in place. I didn't even have to use hot glue with these. So for some of the picks that I have there, the greenery especially, where it's a little bit more flimsy, so to speak, so to say. Oh my goodness. I used another pick to make a hole. You'll see me doing that throughout. I used another pick to make a hole, and then I would tuck the actual piece that I wanted in there into the hole that I had created. So if you have anything that's just not quite as stiff, you can create a hole for it and then tuck it into that hole that you create, and it still holds it really nicely. So as I do this, I'm going to be starting with a lot of the greenery and working my way around. Here I'm creating a hole there, working my way around with the greenery first, and then I'll go back in and fill in with the pine cones and the berries and the other picks that I have there. Anything that had a leaf on it, I also did make sure I kept the leaf there because I knew that that was going to serve to fill in some of the holes and gaps as well and just make it look more full and lush. So yeah. And then while I am doing this, I just wanted to take a minute to thank you all. I hit 40,000 subscribers this past week. I am blown away. When I started this channel a few years ago, I never imagined that I would get 1,000 followers, let alone 40,000. So thank you so much for being here. I really sincerely appreciate each and every one of you. And then I also do want to just make a little plug for my sister. With the holidays coming, some of you might be interested in learning how to earn a little bit of extra cash, or maybe even a lot of extra cash on the side. My sister Kim, who helps me out with my channel, has started her own little side business and is teaching people how to make extra money online. And you can do it, from what I understand, just with your phone. So check her out. I'm going to leave her links in my description box. She is going under the handle KC Healthy Wealth, and she is on Facebook and Instagram and I think TikTok. She's on a few different social medias, so you'll be able to check her out on whatever social media you use. But check her out and let her know that I sent you her way. Leave her a comment and a like if you wouldn't mind, because it'll just help her to also get in front of other people so that she can share her knowledge. But here I've got this garland from Hobby Lobby that I'd gotten on clearance last year, and I'm tucking it in to any of the gaps, as you can see, and then just trimming it off at the length that looks appropriate for where I'm sticking it. Now, I don't know what this is called. Would you call this a garland ball? I don't know. Obviously, it's not a garland, so that might not be the right term. Greenery ball? I don't know. But I think it turned out super cute. I think it's really, really pretty. Right now I have it hanging off the corner of my mantle so I can see it here as I'm talking with you. But I might have to make a few more of these. But let me know what you think of this one. DIY number 3. Okay, these are from the Dollar Tree. They are placemats, and I've had them in my stash for a while. I honestly forgot that I had them until I went and pulled out one of my bins that had gotten tucked away when we were redoing my craft room. So yeah, it's been a little while. But I am going to be making a pillow. I would have loved to make the pillows out of both of these, but I was running out of polyfill, so I only had barely even enough to make the one pillow. So I opted to do this one with the little red truck. But either way, whatever design you use, you're going to do it the exact same way. I just have to get myself some more polyfill so I can make myself another pillow with the Merry Christmas one. But I am pinning these together with the right side out. I know I've made a couple of other pillows in recent weeks, and you've probably noticed that I always do them with the design right side in, but I'm going to be sewing the outer edge of this right along the seam that was created when they made the placemats. And so a little bit different style, but it turned out beautifully. I was trying to go slow here, and even while going slow, because these are so thick, I just have a basic sewing machine, y'all. So I did end up breaking two needles I broke on this. The second needle was really my fault because I didn't realize I didn't have the tension done properly on the sewing machine after I replaced the needle the first time. Otherwise, I think I probably would have been fine. And the first needle, I think the needle was probably in need of replacing anyway. I'm not sure how I managed to break it the first one, but in the end, everything went well. I did leave a gap at the bottom so that I could stuff my polyfill in, making sure I get it into each of the corners. And then I'm going to be sewing up the bottom. I opted not to use pins for the bottom because, again, I was kind of light on the polyfill and it wasn't really necessary. But if you find that it's going to be easier for you to pin that bottom to keep it together the way that it needs to sew that up, then by all means, you can go ahead and pin that. And anytime I start a stitch or end a stitch, I just run it back and forth a couple of times to make sure that those stitches are anchored. But this turned out so stinking cute. I think it is absolutely adorable. I hope that you like it too. You'll have to leave me a comment and let me know what you think of this one. But I absolutely love it, and I will definitely be making more. And now it's time for a shout out timeout. Cute, Kathy. Look at all of these adorable little faces. I absolutely love them. I would love to give you a shout out as well. If you have interest, just send me an email at craftedbycorie@gmail.com. DIY number 4. All right, I have a whole bunch of randomly sized ornaments. These are all remnants from different projects that I've done over the years. I have some Dollar Tree lights and then that wood round and my Kirkland ribbon. So different kind of ribbon for this one. But that wood round, I am going to start out by painting. I'm going to be using my Java chalk paint in just a second. So going to take off the hanger. I'm trying to remember. I think this actually did come from the Dollar Tree, but you can also find them at Michael's, I believe. And if I'm not mistaken, they're about the same price. And especially if you can get them on sale, you can sometimes get them less at Michael's. But getting my Java chalk paint ready, I'm going to be painting the top of this wood round. And then I'm also going to paint a little bit of the top of the sides. It's probably not necessary to do the sides, but I was just being cautious, and I just want to make sure that it's not going to be visible. The wood tone won't be visible later, but you'll see why and what I'm talking about in a little bit. So I'm going to start out, once this is completely dry, I'm looking to see how many ornaments I should put around here. And I know that I want to start with my largest ornaments first. I did have these larger ones, but I wasn't sure if I would have enough of them and different kinds. Turns out that I actually did. I was most interested in using different colors, different textures all the way around because I wanted it to just have more interest and color and dimension. I was more successful on some rows than on others with that, but I did the best that I could with what I had. So this is a fun project to put together with, scraps of ornaments, so to speak. I don't know if you would refer to them as scraps, but if you have a whole bunch of random ornaments that you're not going to be putting on your tree anymore, this might be something for you to try. So I just made sure that they were all evenly spaced. And now on my next row, I am going to go with the next sized ornament. So my second largest ornaments are going to be for this next row. And as I go, I'm going to continue to just go one step smaller with each of the ornaments. And that's going to help me create my cone shape or my tree shape. I determined that little green one was a little too small. It wasn't quite the same size as the ones that I'm using here. So that will end up in my next row. I was just wishing that I had some green to put down on the lower half, but again, I'm working with what I have here. So again, just continue to use smaller ornaments as I work my way up. And just applying them. It does take a little bit of patience, I won't lie. This is not hard. It doesn't take a lot of skill. But you do need to just be a little patient with yourself because they are round, they're balls, so they roll. And they don't necessarily stay in place while you're trying to get to the next step unless they're glued down. So for that top, I used the same size as I had used for that last row. And once I have it all done, I grabbed a little star from the Dollar Tree from my stash, and I'm going to apply that right there at the top. Just using my hot glue. And those are ornaments. I just pulled the little ornament holder off of it. They're like little foam stars with a fun confetti kind of thing around them. It's not glitter, so they don't make a mess. But this next little bit that I'm using, these are from the Hobby Lobby. I'm going to call them mini picks for lack of a better term, but they're little mini pine cones and berries, and they're little clusters. So I'm tucking them in any of the gaps that I have from having put the Christmas balls together. So just filling those in, they worked out perfectly, filling any of the larger holes, and I did use a little bit of hot glue on some of them to keep them in place, though others seemed to fit perfectly as if it was made for them, and so I didn't necessarily have to use hot glue everywhere. But if you want to make sure that they're not going anywhere, I recommend the hot glue. So now I'm taking my little battery pack. Make sure that you glue the part that doesn't need to open to change the batteries. But I'm basically gluing my base onto the battery pack. So now the battery pack has become my base, my new base, and then I'm wrapping my little lights around. In hindsight, I should have used fairy lights for this. And it was after I had glued it to the base and I started wrapping this around, I was like, ugh, I should have used fairy lights. So learn from my mistake. I mean, it's still cute, but the lights just kind of stick out a little funny in some places. If I had had more time to play with it and patience, let's all be honest, maybe I could have gotten it to lay a little bit flatter, but fairy lights definitely would have worked better. So that would be my recommendation. Now I'm going to take some of my Kirkland ribbon. This is a 1.5 inch ribbon, and I'm going to be laying it around the base. This is going to hide the battery pack as well as the wood round part. And I'm thinking of this kind of like a tree skirt. I don't know if that's the right word for what I'm talking about, but I've seen in recent years, and I've actually made some myself, it's like a, I don't know, what do you call it? You guys will know, but it goes around the base of the tree basically to hide your tree stand, so to speak. So just applying that, I made sure that I folded the ribbon over to hide the raw edge. And now I'm going to flip it over in a second and apply some additional hot glue to just make sure that it is secure, not just at that back seam, but all the way around the base of the, oh my goodness, the wood round. I don't want the ribbon to fall down or get displaced. So let me know what you think. DIY number 5. Okay, I have another one of these Dollar Tree ornaments, and these are some, what do they call them? Do they call them greenery ties, I think? I forget what they're called, but you can find these at the Dollar Tree. The ones I'm working with are actually from the Hobby Lobby. They're a little skinnier than the ones at the Dollar Tree. I actually like them better for this particular project. I had gotten them on sale, and they were in a much larger pack than what you get from the Dollar Tree. And so they ended up being the same cost. Hopefully that makes sense. But I actually think that they're higher quality, but I'm cutting them down in such a way that I can create little pine trees. So the parts that I'm gluing to the first part I wanted to be a little bit shorter. You can kind of see it there. So I've got my base that I'm kind of using as my trunk, and then I am applying 3 other little pieces that are slightly shorter to create my tree. And the reason I'm doing it this way, I want to be able to adhere my trunk to the bottom of the inside of the ornament, and then I'm going to be filling it with some glitter. If I had had the Dollar Tree snow, that would have been my preference, but I didn't. So I'm going to be filling it with glitter. And I wanted the glitter to not cover up a ton of the tree. I kind of want the tree to be sitting on top of the glitter, if that makes sense, or look like it's sitting on top of the glitter. Anyway, what did they say? A picture speaks 1,000 words. So hopefully it'll make more sense as you see it coming together. So I wanted to have 2 additional trees for a set of 3, but I wanted those other 2 trees to be shorter than the one that's in the middle, especially since I've got that curvature going on with the ornament. They're already going to be at different heights when I attach them inside. So that was the reason why I was measuring them off smaller than the original tree, and I did them 2 identical. So I'm going to glue those together the same way that I did that first tree. And once I have all 3 of them, I'm going to go ahead and use my tweezers to try and get them in place, in position inside. Now, I'm not going to lie, this was a little bit of a challenge. I'm applying a little bit of hot glue to the tip, trying not to get it on the ornament as I go through, and trying to place the little tree where I want it inside the ornament. Now, had I had a longer set of tweezers, maybe that might have been easier. In hindsight, I'm wondering if maybe my little Cricut tweezers would have been a little bit longer and easier to work with for this, but I hadn't thought of that at the time. So I did a combination of using my fingers, gravity, and the tweezers to try and get these in place and just getting them secure. One thing I did do right, and highly recommend, work from the outsides, so the sides in towards the center, because if I had put that first tree in the middle before doing the outsides, I would have really struggled with trying to get the other little trees on either side of it. So make sure you work from the outside towards the center, and that will definitely help matters. So for the last tree, I had dropped some hot glue down inside and then tucked that tree down into the hot glue. So now I'm using some parchment paper to create just a cone, and going to use that as a funnel to get my little iridescent silver glitter in there. In hindsight, I was wishing that I had used my white glitter instead, but I don't know, for whatever reason, I was like, oh, it's like icicles and maybe it'll be really pretty. It was fine. It was fine. It just, I wish that I had done the white glitter instead. And also, and I did come in with some white glitter for that, to that end. So I added some white glitter on top. If I had to do it over again, I would have used just the white glitter. But I also might have coated the outside of the ornament with the white glitter as well, just to kind of camouflage. You couldn't really see the hot glue in the end, at least not noticeably, I didn't think. But I think that that could have also added an extra touch if I had put the glitter on the outside, just at the base of where the trees were, and maybe at the top to frost the top of it a little bit as well. But let me know what you think of this one. I think it still turned out super cute. Okay, everybody, that's it for today. If you enjoyed the project, remember to give me a big thumbs up, leave me a comment, let me know which one was your favorite, and until the next time, be well, be kind, and make it a great day. Thanks so much for watching. Take good care. Bye.